My name is Emmett, and I currently live in a single dorm at UC Santa Barbara and have been for the entirety of this year. This video is going to be me answering some common questions that I often hear and questions that I had before moving in myself. The first concern that I often hear is, how am I going to make any friends? I think this ultimately depends on the school that you'll be attending. For example, I knew that UCSB was going to be a social school, so I didn't think making friends would become a problem for me, and I was correct. Most of the friends that I have are outside of my living situation, outside of my dorm. However, I do still have a couple of friends from my dorm as well. Typically, these kind of friends can be made at orientation, welcome week, in your classes, or at clubs and events. But I would be more cautious if the school you were going to had a reputation of being socially dead like UC San Diego. Regardless, I think if you are willing to put yourself out there, especially for the first 2 weeks of school, you'll be fine. Another question that I'm often asked is, do I ever get lonely? In a single dorm, you are granted the privilege of privacy, which I really appreciate, because if you were to be living in a dorm with roommates, if you want privacy, you kind of have to ask for it, or else you don't have it. And this is the really neat thing about living in a single. You are always given your privacy as long as you are in your room. Now, if I'm feeling lonely, then I can simply leave my dorm, walk outside, and socialize with people. I personally really enjoy this aspect of a single dorm, but if for whatever reason you constantly need to be around people, then a single dorm is probably not for you. A big concern that I had, as well as something that you should think about, is the additional cost of a single dorm. Personally, I got a decent amount of financial aid, which really helped me in deciding to live in a single. Now, this is ultimately up to you and your parents to decide based on your financial circumstances. Now, I'm going to be switching into parts that I like about a single dorm and parts that I don't like so much. So, the cool thing about my situation is that I live on a pretty small floor, which is built up of 4 single dorms and 2 doubles. I like this for 2 reasons. One, the 3 other singles kind of behave as roommates that simply don't sleep with you. So these are people that you see often and can become your friends. 2, it is more likely that these people are not the type to party it up and aren't going to bring you too much noise. This was something that I was aiming for personally, as I did not want to have trouble falling asleep at night. Unfortunately, one of the doubles on my floor loves to bring the entire school over and completely trash our bathroom, but I highly doubt that you will experience the same thing. That segues into my next point. We all share one bathroom. Now, this varies depending on the school and dorm that you are living in. It is possible to have your own restroom in your room, which would be the most ideal situation. However, this is very rare. Most of the time, you will have communal restrooms that everybody has to share. Typically, floors are made up of 20 to 50 people, which consist of double and triples. This means that these floors have multiple restrooms that people are able to use. Sometimes this can mean that you are able to lock the restroom and basically have your own privacy. Because our floor only has one bathroom, we have an unspoken rule that you are not allowed to lock the bathroom. This does mean that you have a lot less privacy and you do have to just share with the few people on your floor. Another problem that I didn't really think about until I got here was how often people lose their keys. Now, I always keep my room locked, but some people like to have it unlocked, so that's just personal preference. However, this one time I did wake up in the middle of the night and I had to use the restroom. So when I went to the restroom, I brought my phone thinking that it was my keys for some reason. Obviously, I didn't realize until I couldn't get myself back into my room. So luckily, at least I had my phone, so I was able to call the RA, and I had to walk to a different building, get another key, and basically get myself back into my room, get my original key, and then give the lended key back. However, if you do have roommates, this situation is a lot less of a hassle, as you can just text or even knock on the door and ask your roommates to let you back in. You can also just never forget your key, which is what I do now. But I think the greatest thing about having a single dorm is going to be your freedom. I have the freedom to sleep whenever I want and wake up whenever I want. This means that I'm able to play video games or watch a movie as late into the night as I want. This also means that you're not waking up to your roommate's 8 a.m. alarm when you feel like sleeping in until 11 because your class starts at 12. Also, a general recommendation that I can give you guys, if you're able to, live on the top floor, especially if it's not a super tall building. For example, my building is 3 floors and I live on the 3rd floor. This is really nice and convenient because you're not hearing the people stomping above and who knows what other activities are going on up there that you do not want to listen to. Now, singles are pretty limited and hard to get, so I do think most of my success came down to luck. However, I would suggest that you stay on top of your emails and make sure to apply to housing as soon as you get the email about it. Besides that, there isn't much that you can do. However, I do know someone who used to live in a double and now lives in a single. He basically requested a switch during the year and he got it. Well, that concludes today's Yap session. And if you guys have any additional questions, please leave them in the comments down below and I will make sure to answer them. Thank you for watching and please subscribe.